But thanks for joining me this morning. This session is all about how Synergist helps you power your project profitability. So if you've ever discovered too late that project's over budget or a profitable client is costing you money, hopefully this session will show you how Synergist gives you the visibility to protect margins in real time. As usual, before we start, for those who don't know me, haven't attended any of my previous webinars, I'm Steve, one of the co-founders here at the Agency Works. I've been working with Synergist and for agencies for well over 25 years now. And I can honestly say that every agency I've ever worked with is keen to manage profitability better. So let's set the scene. It's month end. You finally sit down to review your numbers and suddenly realize that 3 of the projects you're working on are already 40% over budget. And that profitable client you're relying on, well, actually, they're costing you money. So by the time you spot it, it's too late, the work's been done, the hours have been spent, and the margin's gone. But what if we'd known about this 3 weeks earlier? You could have adjusted the scope, reallocated work, or had a different conversation with the client. And that's the difference visibility makes. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. So this session should last around 15-20 minutes, so plenty of time to get a brew before your next call. And today we'll look at how to build accurate estimates so you can know if a project will make money before you even pitch it. And from there, we'll show you how these estimates link directly into real-time tracking, helping you see exactly how projects are performing against plan, and crucially, how to spot and prevent over-servicing before it eats into your margins. Next, we'll dive into how Synergist helps manage resourcing and how this directly impacts profitability by ensuring that the right people are working on the right jobs at the right time. Then we'll move into the Synergist dashboards, giving you visibility on what's really happening across your projects in real time. And then finally, we'll explore how to identify maybe which clients, which services are your most profitable, so that allow you to focus on work that really drives your growth. Now, of course, it's one thing for us to tell you all about the benefits of Synergist, but I think it's even more powerful to hear directly from the agencies that use it day to day. So here's one of our clients who summed up their experience. They describe Synergist as groundbreaking because it not only helps them see when projects are at risk of overrunning and fix issues before they escalate, but also gives them the confidence to be strategically smart, focusing on growth and scalability, knowing they've got the right statistics driving their decisions. I'm also aware that there may be some people who are new to Synergist on this call. So for those who don't know, Synergist is the UK's #1 agency management software, as recently reported in the Agency Bench Press survey. It's trusted by over 500 agencies nationwide. And we've been building Synergist since 2003 with one goal in mind: to create a platform designed specifically for agencies like yours. It's highly configurable, so whether you're running a creative agency, digital marketing team, PR, firm, or any other professional service business, it can be tailored to fit the way that you work. So why do so many agencies choose Synergist? Well, this picture might kind of be recognizable to a lot of you because most agencies end up juggling multiple systems. You may have a spreadsheets for budgets, one tool for briefs, another for sales pipelines, something for resourcing, tracking tools, separate invoicing software. And the result is it's all very time consuming, disconnected, and it's almost impossible to get a single accurate view of what's really going on in the business. So hopefully that's where Synergist changes the game. It brings all of those processes together in one place, from the very first brief or sales opportunity right through to project delivery and invoicing. This saves you time, but more importantly, it gives you clarity, improves efficiency, and helps you make smarter, more profitable decisions. Okay, so enough of the background. Let's dive into the live demo now. For that, I just need to switch screens and also turn my camera off so you can see more of the system and less of me. So bear with me while I do that. Okay, there. Okay, so hopefully you should now all be able to see my screen. Now, for me, when it comes to project profitability, everything starts with the estimate. And for just a bit of clarification terminology-wise, in Synergist, your estimate is your internal time and cost, while your quote, which we'll look at in a second, is what you charge your client. And that distinction means that you can plan resources accurately regardless of the final price. Complex jobs can be broken down into phases. So for example, you might have scoping, design, development. So again, you can estimate and track time and costs and profit at each of those stages. So you'll see estimated hours or days by role, the internal cost, recommended charge based on client specific rates or agency rate card, and also your expected margins. You can also add purchase estimates, manage supplier tenders, and even apply probability weightings to opportunities for better forecasting. So in the example that you're seeing on my screen here, as I said, we've broken this job down into 3 phases, almost kind of chapters in the book, and I can estimate how much we need to spend on maybe third-party purchases, also internal resources. So the first thing it's telling me is if we were to win this project, how many hours do I think we would need to deliver this? So that will kind of tie into our capacity forecasting, which we'll look at in a second. But it also brings through an estimated internal cost to the business, and based on everything we've estimated, what the system is recommending we should charge the client for this piece of work. Now, if everything went to plan, this is the forecasted expected gross and net margins. So it allows me to build that picture internally of what we think the project will take. Now, if we move over to the quote, as I mentioned, your estimate and your quote are not the same thing. They can be, but typically they're not. And that separation is really powerful. So your client-facing quote is where you can add things like markups, contingencies, maybe you're flexing for market conditions or project complexity, or simply just to align with your client budgets. This gives you more confidence to make commercially smart decisions, even when you're dealing with discounts or negotiations. And importantly, it also helps you to move away from just cost-based pricing, but perhaps towards more value-based pricing, which is a more strategic way to drive revenue and profitability. So in my quote, the first thing that I need to decide is how do I want to present this? As I mentioned, we can copy the estimate over to the quote and play around, and you might have some clients who need to see the breakdown of actual hours and rates. But in this example, what I'm going to show is more value-based. So actually, I can then move away from the number of hours, and I can say to do the creative conceptualization, here's what we can deliver, but a narrative, and it's going to be 20 grand. So we don't need to show X amount of hours, I don't need to charge by hour. And I've done the same for the other phases. So I can decide how I want to present this, but more importantly, I can also play around with how much we want to charge for this piece of work. Now, the reason that we might have a different charge rate may be based on this concept here, this figure at the bottom, which hopefully you can see, which is called investment. And your investment figure is basically your under-over recovery. It's the difference between what you've invoiced your client to date and what you should have invoiced them. So for example, this client, Diageo, over the last 4 or 5 jobs, we've raised invoices to the value of £100,000. Based on what we've delivered Diageo on those projects, we should have invoiced them more like 110,000. So we've under recovered by 10 grand, and that 10 grand will sit in a little pot called client investment. So the next time we do a quote for that client, I can clearly see our under over recovery, and hopefully we can claw some of that back just by making a commercial decision on the next project. Okay, so that's the quote page. That's where you can see how your kind of client-facing numbers are built. But I think creating the quote is really just the starting point. What matters is whether the project actually delivers the profit that you plan for. And that's exactly where the job dashboard comes in. So this is where we start to track time, costs, and margins in real time. So you can see instantly if your projects are on track, running over, or maybe heading for trouble, and allow you to take action before it's too late. So here we've got you've got lots of numbers on the screen, but really what we can see here are things like a health check. So it may be simple financials, invoiced to quoted. It may be what's our burn rate, actual to estimated hours. It may be tracking the value of work to what we've either invoiced or what we've recognized. The profits and costs will highlight very quickly to me how we're performing on this job based on what we've quoted, or maybe you want to look at it based on what's been billed to date, or how that impacts your profitability. And if you are using the system to recognize revenue, then again, we have an option to look at it based on what's been recognized, which is different to what's been invoiced. But effectively, this is your mini P&L for the job and will really highlight when things may be going off track. Okay, so we've looked at how the job dashboard can give you that kind of real visibility into whether each project is on track and profitable. But we know profitability doesn't just come from tracking after the fact. It starts with how you plan and allocate your resources. And that's where Synergist's resource booking feature comes in. Okay, so by scheduling the right people with the right skills at the right time, you can avoid over-servicing, balance workloads, and make sure that every hour is contributing towards your profit. So in this screen, what I have is a split screen. So I have bottom half, I have all the estimate lines, and top half, I have each of my individual teams, and each team can have an individual resource member in. And I can filter this to look at certain teams, certain resources. But effectively, what I'm looking at here is what people are working on. And it's a real simple drag and drop tool. So I can look at the bottom, I can see how many hours we've estimated, and I can drag them in to people's diaries. So why this is important is because I think a key part for a scheduling manager before they get to allocate their work is understanding this, is understanding how many hours you've actually allocated, how many hours we've estimated, how many hours we've sold. Because it's okay giving somebody a job to work on, but can they take an hour, 3 hours, 10 hours? That will have a massive impact on your profitability. So it can control kind of and keep hopefully your teams on track. Now, I can look at this in a different way, which is useful as well, is I can also switch it from our booking view to a loading view. So this is much more of a capacity view, and I can look at it for the week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, whatever it might be. But it's going to highlight where I've got availability and where we've got potential capacity issues. So here, for example, Jay, who's an account executive, is green, so he has availability. Amber, fully booked, and red means he's got more work booked than our hours in that day. And what's really useful about this is you can change utilization rate per individual. So example, for Jay as an account exec, I may expect him to have 6 hours chargeable work a day. So when we get to 6 hours, he'll go amber, and above that, he can go red. Me as an account director, maybe more like 3.5, 4 hours a day. So again, you can set different utilization rates up depending on resources. Also worth noting as well, this doesn't just apply to confirmed project, it's equally important for potential jobs that are in your pipeline. So you can actually allocate resources for jobs that are not yet signed off. And if you're interested in how Synergist manages pipeline, my previous webinar was around pipeline management. And again, you can access that on our YouTube channel. You can also view this as well in a different way via the capacity dashboard. So we can use this data to help with forecasting and capacity planning, and it allows you to anticipate future resource needs much more accurately. So we know that by planning ahead, you can reduce the risk of last minute hiring or heavy freelancer reliance, which can only be costly and impact profitability. Additionally, it helps you prevent overhiring by ensuring that your existing resources are fully utilized before expanding the team. But in short, resource booking in Synergist isn't just about who does what, it's about ensuring the right people are doing the right work at the right time for the right price, because that's where agency profit lives and dies. Okay, so far we've looked at how planning and resource decisions directly impact profitability on individual projects. But to really drive agency growth, we need visibility across the whole business, not just job by job. And that's where Synergist reporting and analytics come in. Let's dive open to the job list. Okay, so let's start with the job list view. So Synergist uses a kind of a clear traffic light indicator to flag projects that may be on track or close to budget or even over budget. And that early warning gives you options. Maybe adjust the scope, maybe reallocate resources, maybe escalate the issue to your client before it eats into your profit. Now you can view this on screen as we are at the moment, or you can set up alerts as well. So that can flag potential issues. So for example, when a job reaches a certain percentage of its budget, you may want an email alert to warn you. So in my view, I've got a job list set up, which is customizable, and you can choose whichever columns you want. And in my view, I've created one called job profit view, because you can call your views whatever you want. And I wanted to see my jobs, actual to estimated hours, and that is a thermometer view. I wanted to see the charge value, so what's the value of work we delivered today against what's been quoted, and that was a thermometer view. But also I wanted to show invoices and also kind of what our current gross and net profit value is too. So You can dictate, as whatever role you are in the business, what you need to see, what means kind of the most to you. Now that could be different, and you can set up multiple views, either for yourself or the business or for different kind of teams. So client reviews, client service reviews. You might want to look at something more kind of resource focused because we know that that will impact on profitability too. So in this view here, I've changed the columns around, and this view now is showing me a similar view to actual to estimated hours, but also what's booked in the future. So if we look at this job at the moment and think, okay, we're fine, we're working at 59% of burn rate, that's okay. But actually, if we factor in what's yet to be delivered, it's more like 76%. So it's just a neat way of looking not only what's happening now, but also looking into the future so we can forecast where there may be potential issues. Okay, so we've seen how the job list view can give you kind of detailed visibility into the status of individual projects, what's on track, over budget, risks, etc. But as an agency leader, you also need the bigger picture, and that's where the management dashboard comes in. Okay, so this is where it pulls everything together at a kind of a single view or higher level, showing you things like your financial summary. And that could be by what's been recognized, what's been invoiced, or looking at your agency's net and gross profit to date. You also can see who your top clients are. You might know, but it'll give you visibility in terms of who your top clients are. And again, we can look at that by what's been billed or gross or net profit. So hopefully you try and avoid having one client with too big a piece of the pie. And then also a metric that a lot of agencies like to keep an eye on, this earnings per head. So this will ensure that all your profits are aligning with your headcount as well. And if it's too low, you may have too many people or your profits are too low. Okay, finally, let's zoom out. One of the biggest questions we get asked is kind of, which clients are most profitable? What types of jobs are we doing are truly the most profitable? Now, we have a host of reports that out of the box that provide that information to us, but for the sake of today's session, I'm going to highlight how we use a data analytics tool. This allows us to create custom reports that really allow you to cut the data any which way you need, maybe by client, by service type, by project, or even by individual team, to see exactly where your profits are strongest and where your margins are being squeezed. So I'm going to switch the dashboard to my data analytics. So this means that you can spot trends early. So whether that's a type of service consistently over delivering or a client account that isn't as profitable as it may look. And the best part is when you've created these reports, they don't just live in spreadsheets. You can publish them directly to your custom dashboard, which gives you or your leadership team instant access and visual insights into where the agency is making or losing money in real time. So in my example, I've created a profit by job report. We have just 3 simple job types in our system, so I can see how much profit we're making each month. I can show that as a table, as a chart. I've also created one which might highlight profit by client. And again, as a table or chart. But as you can see here, you can create a host of reports that are applicable to you or to the business, whether that be GP forecasting, lost opportunities, conversion rates, pipeline, all of the above. Okay, so just to recap, first, accurate estimating means that you know whether a project will be profitable before you even pitch it. Your dashboards will give you live, real-time visibility across every project. Overservicing is flagged as it happens, so you can fix it before it's too late. And then finally, you can see which clients and services are really worth your time. But the bottom line is there's no more of that kind of month-end surprises. With Synergist, you always know the truth about your projects while there's still time to act. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar, under the 20 minutes as promised. Hopefully you found it useful. If Synergist did look like it could work for you, or you want to dive a bit deeper, then do let us know. I think we'll be sending out a copy of the recording later for those people who couldn't attend, or if you want to share it with your teams. If you are interested in this or looking at other areas of Synergist, as I said, we have a YouTube channel with all of our previous webinars on there. So go across there and have a check that out. We've also got lots of information and resources and blogs on the Agency Works website too. But just want to say thanks for joining me this morning. Hope you have an enjoyable rest of the day and hopefully see you soon.